Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Rising Stories Podcast. I have a new episode today. I'm Corine Sandifer, your host, and each week I invite you to listen as I chat with business owners and authors about the dynamics of building and running a business and how these writers became published authors. We also delve into topics that we can all relate to, such as work-life balance, living with intention, and dreaming big. As these women share their stories with us, it's my hope that you will be encouraged to live out your own story. So please spread the word and tell a friend about this podcast. Also, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and leaving me a review, hopefully a good one. And this is important because it helps others find this podcast. So I would love for you to go over and do a review and leave me some stars on iTunes. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at Corine Sandifer on Instagram and on Twitter. My guest today is Laura Lea. Laura has written a cookbook called Laura Lea Balance Cookbook, and many of her delicious and healthy recipes have been featured on sites such as Southern Living, Clean Eating, Shape Magazine, just to name a few. Laura shares her journey to New York City and how she discovered her love for healthy foods and cooking. She also talks about her story of being an introvert in a big city and how eating anti-inflammatory foods helped her anxiety. We talk about so much more: business advice, her favorite app, and what she's reading these days. So here is my conversation with Laura Lea. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
How are you today?
I am so good. I'm so glad to be chatting with you.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I think I found you on Instagram, and probably because of the food, because and also like you have published a cookbook, and you're from Nashville, or you live in the Nashville area, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I know it's fun to come across fellow Nashvilleians. I know you're in Brentwood, but close enough.
Yeah. Are you a native Nashvilleian? Like you said, your family was from here or live here? Did you grow
Yeah,
up here?
pretty close. Pretty close. Actually lived in Baltimore till I was 12. And so that was all I knew as home. And then my mom, who is from Nashville, wanted to move home. So we moved right when I was heading into middle school. So I've been here since I was about 12, 13, I can't remember. And so now it definitely feels like home.
Yeah, and it's grown and it's gotten so different now
Oh my
that
gosh,
because I've been
that's
here
nice.
for like 26 years, and so
Oh,
it has really changed from this small town feel of country music was the main thing to now it's just like restaurants and just all kinds of stuff. So tell me what you what your cookbook is about, because there's so many cookbooks out there. What makes yours unique, and what's your what are you spotlighting your cookbook on?
yeah, absolutely. So I think what makes my cookbook unique is I really got into recipe development because I wanted to find healthy recipes that felt like the kind of food I actually really like to eat. I felt like most of the healthy recipes I was seeing were wonderful, but they were a little too healthy. They felt inaccessible. They didn't feel comforting, or they fell into a specific food dogma, a paleo or vegan. And there's nothing wrong with those whatsoever. That's just not how I eat. And so I really started creating my recipes for myself and my own taste buds, very much influenced by my mom's food because my mother is an amazing cook. And so I think that my recipes find that sweet spot between what we think of traditionally as, quote, health food, which is, inexpensive or expensive, inaccessible, very green, and maybe not the most flavorful, and then more traditional foods, comfort style foods.
Yeah, so tell me what one recipe is your favorite, like that you just make time and time again at your home?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my most popular recipe is probably my holy fudge black bean brownies, and we do make those a ton on the sweets front because I have a major sweet tooth, and I had seen the concept of a black bean brownie and had tried a few and just didn't enjoy them, but I loved the idea. And so I think I nailed that one, and that seems to be a reader favorite. And then, I have this recipe for Asian salmon cakes that is so easy. It's just canned wild salmon with some great flavorings and a sriracha aioli. And it's so easy. I mean, it takes less than 30 minutes, and my husband and I both love it. And it's just really healthy and delicious.
That sounds really good. I love salmon cakes. I love anything
Yeah,
seafood cakes at the end of
me
it.
too.
I
Totally.
like any type of like crab cakes or salmon cakes.
Same,
I just
same.
love any of that. It just, oh, it sounds so good. And
So
anytime
good.
they have, like when you go to restaurants and anytime they have a salmon cake or a crab cake, and then they add like, I feel like each restaurant has their own little twist on like a
Hmm.
topping or something. Oh, that just sounds so good.
So good. I love it. I know I'm a sucker for that as well. I'm like, put it in a cake form, with a little creamy sauce, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm sold.
Yeah, with a little salad, I mean, that's like
Mm,
a whole meal right there.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what we do is we just have a light salad or, some roasted vegetables and that's it.
Hmm. Did you grow up cooking? Like you said, your mom was a great cook. Did you grow up cooking beside her? Or did you find your love for cooking later?
I grew up observing a lot. I grew up in the kitchen with her, tasting, smelling. I didn't want to do much of the work at the time, but I was around it all the time. And I understood flavor from an early age because my mom's food is really flavorful. And so I think I got spoiled. And then when I went off into the world and started eating takeout or trying to cook for myself, I realized that there was just a lot more to it. And I wanted to recreate the richness and the flavor that I had grown up with.
And so did you, I read your bio on your website and it was so interesting just how you left for New York right after college. Is that right? And then that's where you
Hmm.
discovered because you were, living by yourself or living there and you were like, I want to eat healthy. And so
Yeah.
that was kind of driving you to explore and how to
Hmm.
cook more things. And I love that. I love that it's like, I'm going to solve this problem. I want to eat healthy. So I'm gonna do it. So tell me more about your life in New York and how that brought you to be a chef and to write a cookbook.
Totally. Well, I thought New York and I were going to get along, and we didn't, whatever the opposite of that is.
Oh no.
I felt like the city and I were just, oil and vinegar, and I was really anxious and probably depressed looking back. And I had stopped going out with my friends. I wasn't really into the party scene, so I was alone a lot, and I was getting up early on the weekends with no one to hang out with me. And so I really did start exploring the city, and sort of at the same time, I had considered cooking because I couldn't afford to keep eating out. And that just really worked because I would put on a backpack on a Saturday or Sunday morning and go wandering around the city. And I would go to Union Square Market and I would pick up all these beautiful ingredients and come home and cook. And it brought me such enormous joy. It really helped me mitigate and manage my anxiety. And I just thought, what an amazing tool this is, and something we all have access, or most of us have access to.
And so did you just start cooking for one? So you just started
I
cooking.
did. Yeah, I started cooking for one. My roommates would sometimes eat the food that I'd been making, but a lot of them, in New York, a lot of people just order, they eat at work, and so
Yeah, and I think that's so sad, I
I
think.
know it is sad,
That
and
yeah.
totally.
I mean, it's interesting because there are seasons here in my home that we do eat out a lot. For
Hmm.
whatever reason, we're traveling or we've got, ball games and things like that that kind of take us away from our normal routine. but I always can't wait. Like after a while, I just can't stand it. It's like, I don't feel like I'm getting any really good food, even though we're eating in, okay restaurants or, we're making better choices, but still it's not the same as eating, you know, just kind of cooking and eating.
Yes, I could not agree more. It's so funny because even if you are eating, and I love some restaurants in Nashville, and we can talk about that, and they have beautiful, healthy food, but it doesn't, I feel like my body doesn't respond to it the same way. And there's something about creating the food, knowing what goes into it, and putting your own energy into it that's just irreplaceable. So I totally understand that.
And on your, you spoke about your anxiety and in New York, which I'm not sure how I would react if I had to live there because number one, I don't like a whole lot of people really, really close to me. And I imagine that it's very like lots of people.
Yes.
And, like if there's a busy elevator and there's 20 people on there, I'll just take the next one. I'm just not, or I'll take the stairs. I'm not, I'm a bit claustrophobic, but not, not extreme. But I can imagine, after being there that would bother me, just being so close to people and lots of people around me that I would almost kind of retreat. So tell me about your anxiety, because you're not the first person I've talked to that has had that situation just in big populated cities.
I think it's common. I think what happens is that we don't know ourselves until we're in a situation like that and we have to respond to it. So when I was in college, I was super social like everybody else, but it's a different dynamic. It's your friends, you're in your comfort zone. And I really I didn't realize how much of an introvert I was and how sensitive I am. I think similarly to you, I don't do well in crowds or with loud noises. And I'm very affected by that. It really drains me, but I didn't know that until I lived in the city. And I think it teaches people so much about themselves. And some people on the other end of the spectrum really thrive and they find that energy is good for them and it boosts their mood, and they come home from a day, a crazy day of the city's energy just buzzing and alive, whereas I'm so depleted. And I'd always been prone to anxiety. I think I'm just a high stress, high anxiety person by nature to some extent, but I really believe that we can trigger that and we can also really help tame that. And when I was in college, my anxiety started to manifest as insomnia. And then in New York, it really showed up more as panic attacks and heart palpitations. And I was still having the insomnia. And it was really rough. I mean, I took myself to emergency rooms multiple times to thinking I was having a heart attack, and they would tell me nothing was wrong with me. And then of course that makes you feel crazier and makes it worse. And then before I started cooking in New York, I was just ordering on Seamless Web every night, and I was ordering from all these random places that were probably using a lot of sodium and a lot of MSG and probably vegetable oils, and that was really affecting me mentally and emotionally as well.
Yeah, that sounds like that might have been the culprit, because later you talk about the fact that you actually felt like you came out of that anxiety. You might have changed the way that you lived as well, like, not going out as much and doing, staying home. And one thing I wanted to say is I think you and I, or people like us, that maybe struggle with that or have that, introvert, extrovert, whatever, but that I think that we drink in deeply everything. And that in itself hurts us when it's like on, like social on steroids. Then it becomes, because then we drink, where some people can take bits and pieces of it, we drink it all in. And that really kind of, I think, it's too much, it's too much. And so, because, I love my friends and I drink them all in and just like enjoy being with them, and I'm there and present fully. And for me to do that in a big group, that would be hard.
Yeah, it's so true. It's funny actually. And I had that corroborated by, I see a functional medicine doctor here who's actually in Brentwood, Dr. David Hasse. And as we got to know each other, he really corroborated that and said, when the average person goes into a party, say, they may take in 10,000, bits of information. You take in 50,000. And it has nothing to do with, better or worse. It's just the way my brain is wired. And so it does mean that there's a barrage of information that's coming in. And so I'm the same way as you. Even with the people I love the most, I can only spend so much time with anyone. I need enormous amount of time to recharge on my own. And I think it's one of the reasons it's made me a great entrepreneur, and maybe similarly to you, that I can sit down and be very peaceful and happy just clacking away for 12 hours, you know?
Yeah. So tell me, so you started cooking for yourself and you found that the anxiety, just in case someone's out there listening to us that has that issue, how did you're changing your lifestyle and your eating habits and cooking for yourself, all these wonderful recipes, how do you think that helped your anxiety?
I think on a scientific level, I think that there were a lot of things that were causing inflammation, and inflammation absolutely can offset, some of these things like anxiety and depression. And so I think I had a much more anti-inflammatory diet after I started cooking for myself, from reducing things like this, probably primarily from the, omega-6 fatty acid rich seed oils, and probably from MSG as well. And then I also just increased my intake of fruits and vegetables, which was just incredibly healing for my brain with all of the antioxidants. And I also think, so just from a scientific level, I think that really helped, but also from an emotional, mental level, cooking was therapy for me. It was a source of relaxation and calm. It was a port in the storm. So
yeah, I'm so glad you found that, and that you listened to your body, and
yeah.
that you discovered the love of cooking, because I love to cook as well. I'm not probably as good as you or your mom, but I do enjoy cooking, and my family thinks I'm an okay cook. So
I'm sure you're a great cook. The truth is I'm not a great chef. I'm a really good home cook, and I would never, my husband's in the restaurant industry, and I would never presume to be able to do the things that his chefs can do. I mean, it's a different thing, but it's a different skill. So I think it's amazing that you can make food for your family that they enjoy, that's good for them, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think more people, like you said, even I know New Yorkers do that, but just there's so many of us that are, that cook, that don't cook as much and are just ordering in. There are times when sometimes we'll just get, like, every week we eat out like 3 times, and, instead of cooking. And I love soups. Do you have a good soup recipe?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have a bunch. So a few of them that are favorites of mine there's actually a spicy black bean and quinoa soup, which is really yummy.
Oh, that sounds
And
good.
yeah, I love that. And then also, this sounds a little weird, but it's delicious. It's actually a mushroom and hummus and rosemary soup. That's really nice. I
Oh,
know. I know.
I
Hummus
never
is a great
thought
way to,
about
I
it.
know, it's fun. It's a great way to thicken soups.
Yeah, so you
Um,
just stick it in there and just swirl
yeah.
it around and it thickens. Oh,
So
perfect.
Well, because I love soup, but I actually am more of a creamy soup person. I like not necessarily creamy, but thicker and heartier rather than brothy.
Hmm.
So I've been playing with a lot of different ways to do that. And you can puree beans. I'd seen that you could puree beans, so I thought, why not throw in some hummus? And it's
Yeah.
delicious. And then my family has a fantastic chili recipe. My mom has her famous chili recipe, so I made a healthier version of that as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
those all sound really good. And they're all in your cookbook?
yes, those are all in the cookbook.
And it's called Laura Lee Balance Cookbook.
Balanced with a D at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And they can find it in Amazon or go on your website, which I'll have links to all that for sure in
Yeah.
the show
Yeah.
notes.
Absolutely.
So, Laura, tell me what you enjoy about being, an entrepreneur, or you're a business owner. You've got cookbooks, and you've written lots of recipes for different magazines and
hmm
blogs. So that's exciting. How does that all work? And share about your day, what that entails.
Yeah, so with the writing, initially I just would reach out to publications that I admire and I would say, "Can I write free content for you?" And some would say no, and some would say yes. And then once I would write something that they enjoyed, then usually they would be willing to have me write and pay me for it. And then, there's some word of mouth that goes into it once I can show a magazine, some other articles I've written. So that just kind of snowballed. And being an entrepreneur is amazing because for me, I think it takes a certain personality. I think my husband is an entrepreneur, but in a very different way. He likes to have his hands in a million different fires, and he's very extroverted, loves the energy of a lot of people. For me, what I do really works for me because I, can really set my own schedule and manage my own time, and the sky is the limit. I think that's what's really special about it is whatever you can dream up, you can do. So I've really, really enjoyed it. And I am an early bird. I am someone who really thrives through routine. So, my days are very similar and that really works for me. And I'm pretty self-motivated. So I can get up and, we take care of the animals and, then we sort of have breakfast together. My husband works out early in the morning, so I either send him off with a smoothie or we're both kind of working at the same time while we have breakfast, which is, I know, terrible and not what I recommend to people, but that is the reality of it. And then usually the morning is my best brain time. So I usually do a lot of my writing and content creation in the first half of the morning. And then I usually spend the afternoon shopping for ingredients and recipe testing and photographing or doing meetings, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And do you do your own photography on all of these?
I do.
Oh, wow. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and for the cookbook too, I did all my own photography.
Oh, wow. That's very impressive that you've got those two creative outlets because you're a great writer and that you're a photographer as well and have that eye. So that's really cool.
Thank you. I love it. I've always been a pretty creative person, so that's just been a really fun way for me to have another creative outlet, within the business.
Mm-hmm. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite app that you use?
I do. Well, currently I don't have one actually, that's not true. I was going to say the one I've been using most recently is Waze, which I know I'm really late to the Waze party, but Waze is incredible. But on the food front, there's one I've just recently started using called Think Dirty. And basically it will scan a barcode and let you know where a product ranks in terms of its toxicity level.
No way.
Yeah. So that's been great. That's been fantastic.
Think Dirty. Oh my goodness. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, it's great, just going around because unfortunately, even from some of these websites that promote healthy food, and I'm sure they're doing their best healthy products, they're still using things that I wouldn't necessarily want to use on a regular basis. So it's great resource.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, because last night, this is very timely because last night my family and I were watching What the Health.
Oh, yeah.
On Netflix.
Yeah.
And we were like,
get your thoughts.
We're all going vegan. Yeah. That was the temperature of the room. We were like, we're all turning vegan. And so I was like, well, and I'm much more like, I'm not an all or nothing kind of person. I'm like, I like to dip my toes in the water just to test it. And
Me too.
I was like, well, I'll just start, checking barcode, like the scan, the what it's, what the ingredients are. So this is going to come in handy because I can just
It's great. It's great. Yeah, I'm similar to you. I'm not a purist, and I'm also very open to very much focus on bio-individuality. And I saw that movie, and I think there's some great takeaways from it. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's really important that we all, get a bigger perspective and not, and not be quick to change things that may really be working for us, Right.
Yeah. And I think that, my thing is I want to, everywhere I go, I think, I want to be a blessing and an encouragement to people. And sometimes when you either come into people's homes or you're somewhere and you're like, oh, well, I don't, I almost feel like a prima donna, like I don't eat blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying people that have medical, restrictions, but just like, I feel like we all need to be a little flexible, and it's
Yeah.
like, don't say that you're not eating chicken. Just let them put the chicken on the plate. And if, or if it's a buffet, just don't take it, but you don't have
Hmm.
to, there's always something that you can eat. And
Absolutely. I love that.
yeah, so that's kind of my thing. And I just think, so I just declared I will add more plant-based foods to my diet. That's my
Hmm.
takeaway.
Hmm.
Because,
And I think that's wonderful.
yeah. So, what is your best what's the best business advice someone gave you about starting your cookbook and all the things that you do?
To leap when you're not ready, I think, or when you think you're not ready. I think that's the most important thing whenever you're doing something that's a little bit off the grid is to I think we let our self-limiting beliefs get in the way of our dreams all the time. And I hear this from young women I mean, every day that they want to do something, but they either don't think they have the education or they don't have the time or no one's going to listen to them because there's a million other health food people. But you just got to do it anyway. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
do it anyway. And part of that too is if you have to do it and you have to create quality content and you have to be consistent and persistent. So that's sort of the given behind it. But I mean, I wasn't ready for anything that I've done with this career because there wasn't a template for it. No one else that I knew was doing it. And I really think leaping before you're ready and then focusing more on grit and consistency and perseverance than skill or education.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are really good advice. I love the whole leap when you think you're not ready. It's excellent
Yeah.
because you're right. There are so many people out there that they want to have it perfect, and life isn't perfect and business
Mm-mm.
isn't either. And sometimes you just have to go, and do it. Otherwise, you'll be stuck planning and planning and planning, and it'll never be
Mhm.
the perfect time. So,
Exactly. There's never a perfect time. That's great. I love
never
that.
perfect time. So, well, tell me what three things you're absolutely loving these days.
Okay, so I feel like I have to choose food things. I want to choose food things. So one is I have been eating this walnut butter recently, and you've never had walnut butter, it is life-changing.
No.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
does it have a little bit of a bitter because walnuts are not sweet?
That's a really great point. So the company that I ordered it from are Artisana, and it's a walnut butter, but it has a little bit of cashews in it. So it offsets that.
Okay.
So it's their walnut cashew butter, but it's primarily walnuts, and it's really, really wonderful. And I was inspired, so I've been making it at home with roasted walnuts and a little bit of cashews, and I do about a
Mm.
3-to-1 ratio. So it's really, really nice. So that's one of them. And I think that a lot of us, I think women in particular, we tend to rely on nuts and nut butters, and almond and peanut butter get used a lot. And so I think having some different healthy fats, some of those omega-3 fats is nice. And then the other thing I'm loving right now that's seasonal are pluots. I've been finding these organic pluots that are just totally dreamy
What are
and
those?
amazing. They're basically plums and a hybrid of plums and apricots, and they're only
Yeah.
available this time of year at Whole Foods, and they're organic and dreamy. So if you can get your hands on some of those, that's
Pluots.
really, really cool. Yeah, and then I've been using the Eat Banza pasta a lot because we love pasta, but traditional pasta can be tough on your blood sugar, and you can find yourself wanting to eat so much of it. So I've been ordering this chickpea pasta, and it's amazing. It's delicious, and it has tons of protein and fiber and a lower glycemic index. So I've been making that a ton.
Where do you find the Bonza? It's called Eat Bonza pasta?
It's called Eat Banza, and it's great because it's available everywhere. Costco has it at an amazing
Oh,
discount right now,
wow.
and you can get it at Target for a great price, or you can get it online on Amazon. So definitely check that out.
That sounds good because I love pasta. So does it have that cream, not creamy? I mean, it's hard to describe fresh
Hmm.
pasta or good pasta because it's kind of creamy, but then it's not, but it's, I don't
Totally.
know.
It's pretty similar.
Is it?
They do a great job. Yeah. And you do want to be careful, obviously, not to overcook it. So, you can, in the box directions, have all that information.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say if you've been eating traditional pasta your whole life that you won't notice a difference, but
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to see someone who doesn't enjoy it. So, and they have all different shapes of noodles and kind of any noodle you might possibly want. And I've been loving it really as like in bakes and casseroles and that kind of thing. I'll often just toss it with some pesto, and it's fabulous.
That sounds delicious. The thing with people who, like, I'll ask my friends if someone said something like, "Oh, this cheese it's fake cheese, but it tastes like real cheese." And I'm like, "Okay,
Hmm.
have you been eating real cheese?
I,
Because
I the same
if you
thing. Oh my God,
haven't
it's
been eating
funny.
real cheese
No,
and
no.
then you eat the fake cheese, there's a big difference in taste."
That's so funny you say that because I kept hearing about this brand called Chow cheese and everyone said it's the best vegan cheese substitute. And so, I'm always trying and want to recommend things to readers. So I got some of the Chow cheese and I was like, whoever is recommending this, it has been way too long since you had real cheese because I'm
Right.
sorry, it is just not even the same.
Right. It's not.
Um,
Like, yeah, when I
yeah.
was not eating dairy, I remember so when dairy's taken out, like for me, I was not eating dairy for a while, a long time ago. And I miss the creaminess of things,
Hmm.
the sour cream, the ice cream, the cottage cheese, the cream cheese,
Hmm.
and regular cheese. So there's a creaminess, a taste involved. And so I hadn't been eating it for a while. So when I bought some soy delicious, quote,
Hmm.
I kind of ice cream thing from Whole Foods and ate it, I was like, "Oh, this is the best."
Right.
But that's
Totally.
cuz
Yeah.
you do
Had
get
gone
that
so
little bit of
long.
a creaminess. But if you're yeah, so I asked her, I'm like, "How long have you been eating cheese?" Cuz I want to know if you're
That's so
comparing
funny.
apples to apples.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. I've had the same experience.
Yeah. So, do you read? Are you a reader?
I'm a big reader. Yeah, I love to read. I'm actually, it's funny, even though I'm a pretty like streamlined minimalist person, I do usually juggle two different books.
Okay.
And one, I'm usually juggling like a fiction and a nonfiction. So right now I am juggling Commonwealth by Ann Patchett, she's from Nashville and she's
I've
an
been
amazing
wanting to read
writer.
that.
It's fabulous. I'm about a third of the way into it. It's fantastic. So that's my bedtime read. And then I do try to carve out some time, even if it's only 20 or 30 minutes during the day, to read something informational. And I'm currently reading a book called, it's not available yet, but my friend Dr. Taz Bhatia. She's based out of Atlanta. She wrote a book called The Superwoman RX, and I highly suggest it. It's on Amazon pre-order, and she has traditional medical training as a doctor, but she's also studied in Ayurveda, and so she has this amazing, basically breakdown of different personalities and how we can heal a lot of the different things that women are struggling with, hormonal imbalance, craving, skin, weight gain, through a very specialized, unique plan. And it's also just really entertaining. It's basically, the prescription, a prescription for just the craziness that we're all juggling. So
That sounds good. I'm going to be checking that out. I would love to read about that. It's
yeah, definitely.
so needed, just figuring where we are and what's, being in tune with what we need.
I know.
Being that you're from Nashville and you just said, I'm so excited to hear about this. Your husband is in the restaurant business, which I
Yes.
love. All of our new restaurants, one of the things,
Yay.
if people are not from Nashville's growing by leaps and bounds. And sometimes we get, I don't know, there's like three or four, 10 really good restaurants opening up
Yeah, it's
like
amazing.
monthly. Like it used to be just like one in a blue moon, but now they're just popping up all over and they're all good. So
Yeah.
tell me what is your favorite restaurant in Nashville?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Or you can
Okay.
pick
So
two.
yeah, I'm gonna do two. So I am biased, but I do think that Henrietta Red, which is one of my husband's restaurants, which just opened in Germantown, it was actually named one of the top 50 restaurants in the country by Bon Appetit yesterday. He doesn't brag about himself, so
Oh
I have
my
to.
gosh.
But
I'm
I,
just like
it,
freaking out. I'm
it's
fangirling.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And what's cool about it is it's a really healthy menu, but also super flavorful. They have an entire vegetarian menu. Every time I eat there, I feel incredible. They have a cauliflower steak. They have a mushroom risotto. They have
Yum.
amazing seafood. And so I always feel so good. So for me, that's just a great fit. It's a gorgeous aesthetic. And then I have to say, when I'm going to do like a quick work lunch, I almost always go to Avo on Charlotte. I just love their kimchi spring rolls. I love their veggie burger. I love their pad thai. It's vegan and vegetarian, and I just think they do an amazing job.
And it's called Avo,
Mm.
AVO.
AVO, yeah.
Okay. And it's on Charlotte. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I my I have a 16-year-old boy at home, and so we go to Charlotte, but we Charlotte Avenue
Yeah.
for lunch or dinner, but we're hitting the that chicken place. So
Yeah. Well, there's
the
a
hot
place in the
chicken.
world for that, of course.
That's
Hattie
right.
B's.
Yep,
Yeah.
Hattie B's is good.
Gotta have it. Love
So
it.
AVO, I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds like
Yeah,
something I need to go to.
for
It's
sure.
hard to find. I mean, as many great restaurants as we have, it's hard to find something that you can pop in for lunch and get something
Exactly. Exactly.
healthy.
And it's a really amazing price point. I mean, you're in and out with, I don't know, $15 and tons of food. So I'm a huge, huge fan.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on. I've enjoyed talking with you, and I know that you have helped some people just, you know, hear about your experience in New York and all that. So thanks so much for sharing all that with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I just loved talking with Laura. I felt that we connected so well on one of my favorite topics, and that is food, of course. Wasn't her information about anxiety and anti-inflammatory foods helpful? I just love that she was able to share with us, and I hope that it was helpful to you or someone that you know. And I've added all 3 of her favorite things onto my shopping list. No lie. I think this is like a first. And did you hear me being a big fangirl on her husband's new restaurant, Henrietta Red? It's only the best new restaurant in town, so I'm super excited that we have that connection. And one more thing, head over to my Instagram as soon as possible to enter to win 3 tickets to Laura's next Nashville appearance, where she will be working out with Sean Booth from The Bachelorette. If you missed something that you wanted to jot down from this episode, no worries, because I've added a whole lot to the iTunes and Stitcher description on the app, and it's also on my show notes at CorineSandifer.com. So all you have to do if you see a book or something that you'd want to buy, just click on the link provided in the show notes. Please consider supporting Rising Stories podcast by purchasing books and products mentioned on the show with the link provided in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and keep rising in your own story.